Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of SaaS Leaders Lounge. And today we have a special guest, Jody. He runs the customer success team over at ThreatConnect. Hi, Jody. How you doing?
Great. Glad to be here and hope you're doing well.
Definitely. And I guess it's really exciting for me to have you on the show because I know at the moment, threat intelligence and cybersecurity as a platform and a product is really big at the moment. And I know ThreatConnect were a black hat and they had some great reviews. So we'll dive into, ThreatConnect and the products in a little while. But what I really want to, start off this conversation around is your early years, your journey into the army and how important that was for you shaping your career.
Yeah, so definitely joined the military and joining the Army gave me a stepping stone to really start my career. Was able to get into intelligence and part of that was networking, signals intelligence, those types of things. But, it definitely led me down the path of cybersecurity and protecting assets and ultimately ThreatConnect.
And during your time at the army, how involved, I guess the products were very different then, but how hands-on were you with the technology that you were using to, work around your role as such?
Yeah, so one of the big things that we were doing was obviously providing threat intelligence. Um, I joined in 1998, got out in 2005, so it provided me the opportunity to get out of the circumstances I was in back in North Carolina, but also to branch out and do other things within the military and with the technologies. Obviously, you're going back to the late 90s, early 2000s. There was lots of different technology then. But one of the key things that we were doing was providing network access to to our battalions and brigades, and to provide the warfighters access and decision makers. As with the evolution of the internet in the early 90s, mid 90s, um, you know decision makers have quick time to make quick decisions, and those were huge things for us. And the other things that today we sit on Zoom and Google and Meets and all this other stuff. And at that point, it was just video teleconferencing. So we were using huge, televisions, like old school TVs to provide meetings and set those things up. So it's definitely very different from what we utilize today.
And I guess during the time at the army, you got to a point where you decided you wanted to do something different. And what was it that really triggered you to get into software or to work on the other side of the table as such?
Yeah, so one of the key things with ThreatConnect, it was a bootstrap company where we were providing government services. They took the profits from the services and ultimately started a software side of the company. I was doing, providing those government services and intelligence and so forth. And you kind of get on those contracts, and those things are year to year. And so I wanted something more long-standing and decided to move over to the other side of the company. And ThreatConnect had started 2013 and really provided me the opportunity to move over in software and customer success. And I thought it was a great place to utilize my skills, at that point to do those things.
And when you got that opportunity at ThreatConnect, originally, or the first role you had was more of an analyst role, and what kind of led you to move into customer success? Where did you feel that there was, a right match for you there, and that you was going to be able to learn a lot, but also ultimately add value to that team?
Yeah, so with ThreatConnect, it's a threat intelligence platform, and the key thing there was, like, I was doing that in a previous life, and so for me, it made the most sense to basically scale over and then provide the customers that ThreatConnect had the experiences that I'd had, and share those with them and utilize the platform. So those things, and ultimately the companies started to grow, and we kind of went from 2 and 3 customer success people ultimately to 30 or 40. And at that point, that kind of also gave me the opportunity to be a director and ultimately a vice president at ThreatConnect.
And you mentioned the team has grown from 3 or 4 to now almost 30, 40 people. And does that mean that there's, teams all over the world that are working for ThreatConnect? And how is it managing teams internationally, if that is the case?
Yeah, so we ultimately went, global with customer success. Obviously, as sales was bringing deals in, hey, we got to hire people in other parts of the world. We can't continue to utilize people on the East Coast in the States. It's 4 or 5 hour time difference, and so those folks were tired of getting up super early, and so we reached out to recruiting firms and to help us fill those needs. And then once you kind of get a couple of people in the door and you build these relationships, um, you know people know people, and so then you just kind of start to scale. And one of the big things with me is like you hire people based on internal referrals are great, but it's like utilizing everything that you have at your disposal to bring in the best people you can.
And a few things that you mentioned there, I want to draw, a bit of attention to. So if we talk about, you partnered with recruitment companies to help scale operations, something that I guess is really important from, having a successful partnership with, recruitment companies is really about giving a full brief and working closely with them, because I know sometimes it's a case of, okay, this is the job spec, this is the salary range, go out and find top talent. But I guess having that close relationship with the recruiting partners, really having, regular catch-ups to understand how the profiles are lining up to what the requirements are. How pivotal would you say that is for, a quick and efficient process?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps. Once you've kind of got the requirements, set and what you need. Um, and over my career, we've used different recruitment firms. We went internal. Um, you know, I've even hired people at just crazy places. And my big thing is you network, you find people that you can trust, and a lot of time people just need an opportunity. And if given the opportunity, they'll succeed.
And now ThreatConnect are, more than 100 people in size. How has that shaped and changed the way that processes are being run, and how has that shifted the focus of the customer success team over time and the requirements that you have when hiring?
Yeah, I mean, so as we've grown, the great thing is we've built a really good team at ThreatConnect, and it's given us the opportunity to one give people opportunities, but it provides our customers with you know access to some of the best talent, and hopefully they see that they're getting trusted advisors, not only on the product, but they can also help them and some of their daily things, and when it comes to security operations.
And going back to the part where you mentioned being a bootstrap company, how pivotal and crucial has that been for the agility of the business in terms of maintaining the core values and goals? As you know, sometimes companies go down the investment route and it then leads to shareholders and board observers having, a different vision and direction for the organization. How has that been really beneficial for ThreatConnect and for you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a security operations platform, ThreatConnect has provided, a lot of great functionality capabilities for customers that they otherwise would not have. Helps them achieve their goals. One of our big things here, and that we're, hardcore on, is intelligence-driven, operations to help you make those decisions and let intelligence influence the decision making. So it's provide our customers, I think, invaluable, really intelligence and decision making, while protecting their own network and their own business.
And I just want to mention, something that was really interesting to me that I was, coming across a few months ago at the RSA conference was that Threat Connect actually received quite an interesting award for, next gen threat intelligence product. And in a large part, that will be down to the work that the customer success team does. And given the competitive nature of the market, what would you say was an important part of, gaining that award and as a team, what did you really drive to the customers to make sure that experience that they had was really good?
Yeah, so I think we provide one of the best products in market, when it comes to security operations, and then we partner that with a great customer success experience, really from day one. And we provide customer success support, not just technical support, but come with a customer success manager and customer success engineer with our product. And I think once you put both of those together, it really provides the customer a great experience and allows them to really escalate their operations and again make decisions based off intelligence.
And now something that's really important to me, and something I'm always intrigued to hear from different leaders, their approach on this, but how is getting buy-in from the executives internally, but also, I know it's two separate questions, but having the buy-in from executives internally and also getting customer buy-ins, how important is that? And how do you try to, focus on the buy-ins on both sides?
Yeah, so obviously with a product that provides, essentially robust capabilities that ThreatConnect has, like we, again, parallel that with like, we want you to have a great customer experience, not only product, but customer. And so you've got to really have those human interactions. So you're getting, we're able to leverage those things. And we really have a great customer success team here. A lot of people who have been through, different aspects, and, we kind of bring people in from all walks of life and different experiences across the board. And again, I think if you put, the people with the technology, and then it provides people always talk, technology and process, but it's really people that help drive both of those things. And we think we have all that here.
Amazing. And something that's always, important, especially in customer success and sales in general, is reducing the CAC costs. And how are you and the team able to really reduce operationally the cost of acquiring customers, and how does that impact the average customer lifecycle with the business?
Yeah, so I mean, when we look across the business and the customers that we're working with in renewals, I think everybody realizes, like, if you're going to remain profitable, you really got to retain a customer. You can't just bring a customer in. But the key thing across customer success is, like, if we're going to be successful, we've got to retain these customers. Reoccurring revenue is obviously a huge part of the business. I think that's any SaaS company you would speak to. It's great to bring them in, but now what are we going to do to keep them? And so, I think at ThreatConnect, we do a really good job on making sure that we retain those customers.
And on that topic of, customer retention, is there any key initiatives that you've driven directly or created for the team to really, enhance those numbers?
Kind of broke up there just a bit. I didn't get all that question.
No problem. So in terms of the question, it is how is the team able to reduce the cost of customer acquisition, and what are key initiatives that you've brought in for the team to help enhance those numbers?
Yeah, so in order to enhance the numbers, like, again, you've got to be successful. You can't just go to your executive staff and ask for more people all the time. So it's like, what can we do that we're not doing today? And so one of those things one of the big things is, like, we believe in meeting with customers as often as possible. Like, and it's not only meeting your ThreatConnect goals, but are we meeting your business goals? I tell my folks all the time, like, just get personable as much as possible with the customers. Because at the end of the day, and I'm sure you and everyone else, as you go through with people, like, how can I best relate to this customer? But it's also, again, you got to get personable with these clients. And again, it all goes back to trust. If I trust you and I enjoy working with you, it makes the customer experience that much better. And then that's really across any product. But if you don't provide that personal experience for a client, at the end of the day, you're software. And so at the end of the day, we want them to see that we're more than just software. We're people too, and we want to work with you. And I can provide you those experiences. I can help you. And it's really, at the end of the day, partnership, I guess, is the best word for it.
Definitely. And collaboration and understanding how to bring the best out of both parties is something that's always valuable and long lasting, I guess. But something that I wanted to ask you over, the last 12 and a half years you've been at ThreatConnect, how have you seen the role of customer success change? Because it has been, changing like many other roles in the software space, but how have you seen it personally change, and how has it really been more of a, value and strategic focus in recent times?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've definitely seen where customer success has evolved. Even going back 20 years ago, the thing was CRM, customer relationship, and then it kind of turned into account management. And then I think you're really starting to see probably over the last 5 or 6 years where companies are making a huge investment into customer success. Again, because the bulk of the business is in renewals. So if you're able to keep that reoccurring revenue, it allows the business to grow. Sales can go out and do their thing. And so it's been a huge change. You're always going to have customer support. You got professional services, and then on top of that, like the customer success experience. I remember it's probably going back 4 or 5 years ago and at Black Hat, and we were in a booth, and a guy walked up to me, and I think my name tag said, Jody and Director of Customer Success. And, he thought, he was like, is that a made up title? And I'm like, no, it's actually a job. But I think a lot of people are starting to become very keen to like, hey, customer success, like we have to invest in our clients, and investing in clients means investing in customer success and focusing heavily on those assets.
Well said. And I guess customer feedback is pivotal, right, to improving the product and the capabilities and the return on investment for them. How have you been able to take that feedback and help to shape processes internally to ensure higher levels of customer experience for all areas and all different verticals and customers you're working with?
Yeah, so with all clients, everything is a learning experience. Retaining customers obviously is what we want, and that's best for the company. But it's also, you learn a lot of valuable lessons based on customers that churn. And so, I'm sure as most companies do, we love to have a postmortem call. Even if you tell me, you're not renewing, like, let's talk about it. What made your experience? And, is it the product? Is it people? But, those are important things. And even from a budget perspective, if clients are not, able to renew based on budget, we try to work with them as much as possible. But if, those things don't work out, hey, maybe in a year or two you have budget, or you'll find a need for the product, and then we can kind of work back in. And we've certainly had customers, come back into the fold with ThreatConnect. So, I think at the end of the day, if you're able to provide a good customer experience, you ultimately you may retain those customers, and if not, like maybe they come back, but you just really want to walk away with trying to get as much valuable feedback as possible.
And when we look at, retaining customers and building those long-lasting relationships, with the feedback that you receive, how are you able to then, specifically tailor the approach to reduce it? If it's maybe a verticalized increase in churn rates, how are you able to really take that information, analyze it, and go with an enablement plan to, rectify this moving forward to reduce the churn rates?
Yeah, so I think the big thing is, as customer success and really any part of business is you need to remain, agile, be able to pivot based on some things. And again, you got to take those experiences, and if they're negative experiences, you got to learn from those, but you also got to pivot and build processes behind that. So one of the big things like that I'm a big advocate of is, when people fail, processes don't. So obviously I got a big, thing for hiring and getting the right people in. But at the end of the day, like the process is really what we focus on. And so, again, we learn from our mistakes, but we don't let those mistakes like shape who we are. And, the big thing is like, have the mind of a goldfish, like 10 seconds, it's over, pivot on. And especially customer success, because you're, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year. Don't let some of those renewals and some of the things that may happen affect your psyche and how you're going forward with other clients. So.
And interesting what you mentioned about people versus processes. I'll move on to that in a moment. But for me, what I wanted to find out more about just before it leaves my head is just how important is it to hire the right people? And when you look at hiring into your team, what are some of the key traits that you look for and how do you really dive into how curious, and inquisitive somebody is?
Yeah. So number one with me, through the interview process, being in customer success and in the cyber field, we're obviously looking for cyber people, looking for good personalities. Do you have any kind of sales background? Those are all key. And some of the technical stuff, obviously being in cyber is key. But number one for me is like, how do you talk to people and can you relate to people? And so as part of that interview experience, I'm looking for people that can have a conversation with me. And so, yes, do we ask interview questions like, how would you do this? And what are you doing today? I think those are part of any interview process you're going to encounter. But number one, are you able to have, a substantial conversation with me, whether we're talking about, cybersecurity or we're talking about football, the weather, because I want to have the confidence that you can go in front of customers and have those same conversations.
And during the interview process, is there any specific question that you have that you like to ask, or you switch up a few different questions that are, fundamental to your interview process?
Yeah, we switch it up. Probably one of my favorites is, how do you handle criticism? People are really, really good about talking about themselves in the good times, but you really find out a lot about people when somebody's being, providing critical feedback and how do they handle that? And so, obviously being in customer success, you definitely want a little bit of thick skin because, not all clients are happy and that's fine. But how do you handle that? And how do you let that shape, how you handle things going forward?
And just leaning off of that, a question that I really find interesting to the audience and especially to myself is, you don't need to name the person as such or, who they are, but could you think to a moment where one of the, how can I put it? One of the best people you've ever hired, what was an example of why they showcased that talent? And for people that are looking to get into customer success, what would be important traits to really drive that home?
Yeah, I mean, I think, probably the big thing is like, obviously holding the conversation, but are you a likable person? Can somebody relate to you very easily? And so, I think you come across these people, whether you're, walking down the street, you're in the subway, you just may be at the airport or something, try to have a conversation. And so those things are things that you could relate to and that customers will relate to. And being able to, really be like a chameleon, like I want to be able to blend so I can talk to all different kinds of folks and even get the guy in the corner who doesn't talk that much, be able to, extract conversation out of him. And, we've definitely hired a couple of people and, here, and those are really traits that I look for personally.
Amazing. And if we go back on your journey a little bit, you've been in customer success now over 12 years, give or take. Now, you've done the IC role and you've moved into leadership roles. How important was having a mentor, if you did have one? And what did they really help you to learn and develop in terms of skills and experience?
Yeah, I mean, from a leadership perspective, I would say, really across from the military going forward, um, different opportunities, but I think you can learn from, every leader and, across the organization. Obviously the military, you've got different thought leadership there and how they enact those things. And the one thing the military did teach me is I'm a big advocate for teamwork. I like having no weak links, having everybody, work together across the board, because at the end of the day, you're going to go on vacation. And so I need the other person to step up to talk with your customers while you're gone. And, those are huge things, but to me, it's built on teamwork. A good leader always stands behind his people. But you also want to put those folks in the best position that you possibly can.
And so on the topic of teamwork, I guess many people early in their careers, they find themselves trying to compete with people in their team and, really trying to get to the top. And they find that, maybe not having that teamwork ethic is going to benefit them. But I guess later on in their career, when they look back and reflect, they find, hey, working as a team enables us to achieve more in a faster period of time and enjoy doing what we do even more? And is that something that you've seen time and time again working in customer success in teams?
Yeah, I mean, so we definitely celebrate the wins. One of the big things I've told people who have been early to customer success, and even myself, like, your first loss, you remember it, right? That's one thing you kind of, it hits you deep and it kind of hurts your psyche a little bit, but like, you learn from those things. And then teamwork is like, hey, we win together, we play together, and we'll have fun. But like, just in any business and, sport, like, you have fun when you win. And so those are the things that we really enable. And, I empower really the folks under me. I'm not big into micromanagement. So, the big focus is like you do your job, and like, let's take care of what we need to. Um, and I think the big thing, part of teamwork is that you empower them that they're making the right decisions. If you need help, I'm here for help. But at the end of the day, like, if you have questions, let's do this. And then I want them to also feel like it's a family atmosphere where they're able to work, together within the team. So, not only myself, but, rely on your teammates and the people that are there. They're the ones that can, help push things across the finish line and make you successful.
And on that note, I guess you've probably seen it in many of your teams, but giving that autonomy and that trust to the team, it really allows them to flourish and get creative. Sometimes in customer success, as all customers are different, their needs are different, their challenges are different. So being able to give the team that creativity to think outside of the box and solve those solutions are always a big plus. And going back to the piece on mentorship, I really want to ask you, because everyone has their own opinion, but how do you define the difference between mentorship, a coach, and a sponsor as such?
Yeah, so that's a great question. When you start to look at coaching and mentorship, I mean, coaching is like, I'm trying to get you to I guess, be better at what you're doing. And so, we kind of parlay those things into like training, but also kind of having those weekly catch ups, just one on ones, like, where do you need help, and don't necessarily, maybe you don't feel obligated to ask in a larger group setting. So having those one on ones, and I think that's a little bit of the mentorship and coaching. But I think what you'll see with people is they respond a lot better if you empower them to make those decisions. And so, if they've got questions, like, and there's problems, like, yes, let's come with a solution, but like, let's also, kind of brainstorm on what we're doing, whether it's with a client, contract. Let's talk those things out, and ultimately they're the ones closer to the customer. So I think if they have the best idea on what's going on, like, de facto, I will typically defer to them on what they think's best. But obviously, looking at revenue and those types of things, we'll kind of hash it out. But I think, again, it's all empowerment with people, and I think if you empower people, you'll see their progress go up, and their capabilities, at that point, are unlimited.
And your views on a sponsor, how do you view that in the workplace, and how important is that to have somebody that even when you're not in the room, they kind of champion you and want to be there to say, hey, Jody's that guy that I know he's definitely the right person to take on this lead of this customer, or to deal with this escalation, or to build out this team? How important is it to have that person that's rooting for you, especially early in your career?
Yeah, I mean, those, like, again, it goes back to empowerment a little bit, but there's nothing better, feeling for yourself than to have somebody that is sponsoring you, and your champion, to saying, I think Jody, or I think Paris is the guy to move things forward. Um, and, since I've, been at ThreatConnect now, we've came across tons of those people, and the people that we've put in these positions, whether it's managers or directors, have all stepped up when given the opportunity. So it's one of those big things, is providing, people an opportunity, and, definitely getting some of those situations where you have to have heart to heart conversation with some of these people. And, we've brought on younger people, who are interns who turned full time, and, hey, you have this opportunity in front of you. I need you to maximize this. And I think when you push people a little bit, it also empowers them a little bit, but it also tells them that you've got the confidence in them so they can do the best that they can. And again, you'll see people flourish when given the opportunity.
And in your career, has there been any key mentors or coaches for you along the way that you really look back and really feel fond of the help and support that they've given you, and how did it help you to elevate your skills?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say, all the leaders I had in the military were good. And, I've had great mentors, within ThreatConnect as well. But I think you learn a lot being in the military, especially at a young age, and, joining at 20 years old, it influences really your direction. But you take those things, and certainly you learn a lot from bad leaders, right? You learn not what to do, but you also learn from really good leaders on how best to, especially with the team. In the military, you go from you get promoted to sergeant, and you've got 3, 4, 5 people under you, and then you kind of progress up, and you've got 10, 20, 30, and then at this point, at one point, I think I had 30 or 40 people, and like that's a lot of people to lead. It's a lot of people to talk to and take care of. But again, I think at the end of the day, if you take care of people, they will take care of you. And that's really the best thing that you want. And I keep going back to empower, but you empower people, you give them the opportunity to do the best they can, and they will, 9 times out of 10, you see people step up. And if they don't, again, you have those conversations with like, hey, I'm not mad at you, but you kind of go fatherly on like, I know you can do better, and you've got this opportunity right in front of you. Take advantage of it.
I agree. And amongst having a lot of these discussions with thought leaders, I guess a common, sentiment that they have is, as you mentioned, empowerment, trust, and that element of enablement within their teams, right? So that moves me on to another question, which I have around the early stages when you're, hiring into your team. Now, we all know the importance of having a clear onboarding program for new recruits into the team. And how have you really been able to shape that in a way that gives a clear outlook for people in the team of what a career at ThreatConnect could look like within the customer success team, and make sure that from the beginning they have the tools to succeed?
The great thing is, as part of the hiring process, I tell folks like, you're here interviewing for a reason. At this point, we would love to, bring you on board. We definitely shadow. So, your first couple of months, you're shadowing with somebody and sit on customer calls. And I'm not going to throw you in the fire right away and expect, amazing results on day 2. But, I think there's opportunities there where you can take these people, make them kind of realize that, again, there's a great opportunity here. And one of the big things like I utilize with people that we talk to during the interview process is like, you're going to be way smarter a year from now than you are today because of the people. And not just customer success, but really across our entire team, product and engineering, sales and marketing. Like, you're going to learn so much, and then you're going to look back on it. And I typically, after, an employee's been here for a year or so, I ask them to reflect back where they were a year ago. And I'm like, how much smarter are you today? And it's like, it's mind blowing. Right. And so that's the position people want to be in. They don't want to just come to a job, but they want to grow. And obviously sometimes when you're in a small startup, you don't really move up so much unless somebody leaves or the customers or the business is exponentially growing. But it's like, I want to be a better person and move forward in my career. And, sometimes maybe that might not be with ThreatConnect. And certainly we've had, folks hang on for, 3, 4, 5 years. But the great thing is we've empowered them and they've went on to bigger and better opportunities.
And I guess
can't follow them.
I agree. And everyone has, plans in their career, what they want to achieve. And sometimes opportunities come up that they can't turn down. But generally what I find is working within a startup or a scale up, there's always, what they call wearing many hats. You get a chance to have a wider range of exposure and a wider gambit of, day-to-day activities that you can, carry out, which allows you effectively to learn, at sometimes a faster rate and gain exposures to different things that you may have not been able to if you were set in a specific vertical in a specific company, right? So a lot of people are attracted by that startup environment, I guess, because they get that balance of, okay, the processes are somewhat defined, but we also have some flexibility and scope outside of our role. So that's something that's, interesting to many people. And even myself, that's why I'm always, following startups in the space. But just as we start to wind down the conversation now, what I always like to ask the guests are a few important questions. But before I get to that, I just wanted to ask you on your thoughts around how the industry is changing in regards to threat intelligence and SOAR specifically, and if there's any key trends that you see developing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you start to see, a lot of businesses are focused on threat intelligence. Some you definitely have customers that are very mature and some that aren't. But the thing you got to look at is your business objectives. How do you protect the business from threats? Looking at those vulnerabilities. How can I mitigate threats? How do I detect those threats? But at the end of the day, I'm a big advocate, and obviously ThreatConnect does too, is looking at threat intelligence as really an equalizer. The more you know, the better decisions you can make. And if you don't have those things at your disposal, like you're almost shorting yourself. But the better intelligence you have will help make those key decisions later down the line for the business.
And I guess in cybersecurity, the common thing that I hear is that you can have all the ammunition, but there's always a need for more, right? You can have all the tools you need, and if you're not educated right on how to use them and fully utilize the capabilities, it's pretty pointless. So that's something that I guess a lot of customer success leaders really want to drive, is that training and enablement for the users to make sure that they're really valuing the products that they have. And as cybersecurity is a hot topic today and will be for the next 10, 20, 30 years and maybe longer, with many looking to make that shift and transition into the industry, for a leader like yourself, what key certifications or courses would you recommend somebody that maybe doesn't have that cybersecurity background but has the strong technical and business skills to make that move into cybersecurity? What's required, or what would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of certifications out there. You can look at things that CompTIA and SANS offer, and there's smaller companies as well that really kind of give you a focus on what threat intelligence is. And some of those things aren't like super pricey. Some of those others are a little bit pricier, but find something that's suitable, but is also like on your level. You don't want to, one thing that you don't want to do is like overdo it. Obviously, cyber and security, like all those things are, I mean, you can really go down a rabbit hole and you can get overwhelmed really quick, but, focus on some of those things that are high level, then that will allow you to look at some of those things in cybersecurity and really understanding a ton of just the fundamentals of cybersecurity. Like, some of the folks, I just need you to understand theoretical on how these things work and, indicators and how we mitigate and, run a security, incident, from an incident response perspective, but like just understand how those things happen. I don't necessarily need you to have hands on keyboard and be able to, go hack into something. That's not what we're looking for. But understanding the concepts of security is really one of the key things that we look for.
Great. And I guess having had such a successful career to date, something that, I always like to ask the guests are, reflecting back on your journey, what would you say is the biggest, lesson you've learned, and how was you able to, improve the way that you approached it moving forward?
One of the biggest things I've learned is like, I'm a big fan of don't give up. Even when a customer tells me they're not going to renew, I continuously push the envelope. But don't let the first door, if it closes in your face, go knock on the door, go around the door, kick the door open, like figure out solutions on how to get around the door. With my kid, one of the big things that don't give up. You got to be mentally tough. You got to be emotionally tough. There's physical toughness, but don't let one particular thing shut you down and really define your person or your temperament for that day, that week. There's always options, but you just remain resilient is really the big thing. And I think if you're a resilient person, good things will happen for you.
Amazing. And just last but not least, we do the quickfire questions, which is a favorite of mine. And then I'll ask you a question from the previous guest and have you leave a question for the next guest. So the first quickfire question is, what would be your favorite sport?
Oh, I'm definitely a diehard baseball guy, through and through.
And do you have a favorite team?
I'm a Braves guy. Atlanta Braves. Unfortunately, they got eliminated last night, so baseball season's over for me.
And if you had to make a choice, burger or pizza, which would be your preference?
I'm a pizza guy for sure. Yeah, definitely pizza, heavy on the meats.
And if we look at technology, would you say Microsoft or Apple products do you prefer?
Yeah, at this point, I think I've used Apple products probably the last 10 years. I don't even know if I could figure out Microsoft anymore.
Great. I'm also an Apple user, so I agree with you on that one. And last of all, one that always throws a spanner in the works and has some interesting responses. Are you a cat or a dog person?
Definitely a dog person, much more than a cat. Cats tend to have too much personality, where a dog is usually just always happy. So,
and they're always loyal, right? They always want to be your best friend.
Right. There you go.
And lastly, a question from the last guest is, with the evolution of artificial intelligence, how do you think that is going to affect the customer experience? And do you think that is going to impact the amount of roles and how the customer success role is done?
Yeah, I mean, so AI is huge. I think literally you're just starting to see AI probably scratching the surface. Not only in customer success, I would say, across the world, you're starting to see it, and really everything you do. And I definitely think it'll probably have an impact on customer success, but I think there will be huge benefits, for customer success for customers. And at the end of the day, customer success is all about time to value, and if we can increase that time to value, and with AI and those things are there, why not utilize them? But I always go back to the first point that we were talking about, Paris, is it's the people, the people drive it. Certainly AI probably will enhance the process and the experience for customers, but at the end of the day, it's the people that'll have that. And you look, obviously, you're going to know I'm talking with you as a human, and not just a chat bot or chat GPT or AI. You're going to start to see those things, and that's one thing I don't think you can ever replace, but you will definitely start to see AI have a bigger impact, really across all products and I think our lives.
For sure. I definitely agree. I think speaking to a lot of leaders and looking at a lot of different products being offered to myself, even, I guess there is a lot of benefits from it, but I guess you can't rely on it solely, right? You always need to, use it as a tool rather than, everything that you believe in and go in full hearted with that. You still need to have your research. You still need to build those customer relationships. And as you all know, people listening, people build bonds and relationships, not technology, right? So I think it's important to remember that it's always going to have a place, personal interaction and building relationships. So it may enhance the job that we can do, but it's still good to, have people doing the jobs effectively. So yeah, that's great. And what would be a question that you have for the next guest?
Yeah, so probably for the next guest, I would say, what point in your life or a leader really had the greatest impact on you, from a leadership perspective, and then how you handle customer success today. And customer success, I'll kind of add this little tidbit, is leadership not only with your own personnel and your team, but also with how you handle customers.
Interesting. And I'm sure we'll have some good answers, not just on the episode, but also in the chat section after that episode goes live. But again, Jody, I want to thank you for your time, your insightful answers, your great creativity about how you approach those questions. And I'm sure we'll have a chance to have you on another episode moving forward. If anyone is interested in cybersecurity or customer success and wants to connect, I would highly recommend connecting with Jody on LinkedIn. He loves to help and support people along their journey, and that's why he's on the show today. So again, thank you, Jody.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great, chatting with you, and hope everything works out.
Thank you, Jody. You take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
All right, you too. Take care.